What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's your boy WilOcho here from O in the C. I gotta start off by talking about man, it's already been an outstanding offseason for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've already kind of picked up the hammer and grabbed the toolkit, and they've nailed it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on fire to start the 2021 offseason. It has been a joyous occasion thus far. Thank you, Jason Light. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are rolling in the dough, apparently, because they're paying everybody. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have re-signed, how many guys? Oh, this one's about Chris Godwin. It was kind of what you thought was gonna happen. Reports were true, rumors were right, everything was linked up the way it should have been, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers franchise tag Chris Godwin, so he's going to be making around $15 million this season. Now, Chris Godwin, to me, I don't know exactly how to explain Chris Godwin. I'm a huge Chris Godwin fan. I was a big fan of Chris Godwin long before he got all the hype that now all of a sudden he has, national media attention and recognition, and a lot of people on a lot of teams all know who he is, and people are like, oh my God, Chris Godwin's great. And while that's very true, real Bucs fans, right, we saw Chris Godwin, we saw some of the greatness, right? How about that game-winning touchdown against the Saints at the end of the 2017 season, right? Week 17, Jameis Winston, when the Buccaneers only need a field goal, decides I'm going to launch it deep and bomb it to Godwin down the sidelines. Boom, money, touchdown. He hurts his ankle on the play. That was a great play. Chris Godwin, he's always made great plays, and anyone who's paying attention for a while now, you knew this guy was the truth. Godwin, to me, I actually have a cool story. Before the 2018 season, right, which was our Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jameis Winston hybrid season. Thank you to Derek Cutter for that wonderful season. Chris Godwin, of course, that was kind of his breakout year, or maybe I don't know if you want to call it a breakout year, but that was kind of the first time where he really started getting a little bit more and more involved. I remember somebody was asking me about fantasy football, and they were like, what should I do? Is there anybody on the Bucs who's a sneaky sleeper? I was like, there's a couple people you could go with. I was like, but I would say Chris Godwin. If I had to put my reputation or myself on the line, I was like, Chris Godwin is a guy, I think he's gonna be nasty. Long story short, that person did not draft Chris Godwin, and they were sad about it. Chris Godwin, he's been a stud for a long time, and he deserves his money. Hopefully the Buccaneers can work out some sort of a long-term deal with him. If you follow me on Instagram, which, by the way, here comes a shameless plug. Follow me on Instagram, guys. It's going to be right on the screen. At O in the C, spelt like on the C, Bucks. Super simple. You got to type it in. I post daily Bucks minutes every single day. I post a little short Bucks minute, and especially during the offseason and stuff like this, when news is flipping and flying and all over the place, and the blink of an eye you could miss something. Follow me. I keep you posted. I keep you up to date. Good. Now that we have that out of the way, let's get back to Godwin. Hopefully we could get a long-term deal worked out, as I stated on Instagram in a daily Bucks minute. I don't know that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ever will work out a long-term deal with Chris Godwin, to be honest with you. I'm skeptical. I would like to see it happen. I think it would be great for the team, be great for Godwin, it'd be great for the fans. Obviously, we as fans, we love Chris Godwin. I just don't know if Chris Godwin stays on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers longer than Tom Brady stays on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I don't know. I'd be hesitant to jump and say that he's going to get that long-term deal. Hopefully he does. All right, fingers crossed, keep them crossed, but I'm just not sure. Regardless, let's talk about Chris Godwin. What makes Chris Godwin so good? Why is he worth the franchise tag, and why is he worth potentially discussing a long-term deal with? And to me, there's a couple things where Chris Godwin really separates himself from other receivers, because I don't look at Chris Godwin as like a top 5 receiver in the National Football League, just in the generic and typical sense where people are like, oh my gosh, this guy is so good, holy cow. I don't look at Chris Godwin that way, and I don't think a lot of people who really if you really look at Chris Godwin, I don't think you would assess him that way either. Chris Godwin is by far and away the best number 2 receiver in the National Football League, and it's not even close. The gap between Chris Godwin and the second best number 2 wide receiver in the league, it's colossal. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in a great spot because they have a bona fide, true honest to God, cross my heart and hope to die, #1 receiver in Mike Evans. Guy who could take the top off the defense. He could beat any corner on any given day, on any given play. You could lay it up to him and he could beat anybody. He commands a double team. That's great. Chris Godwin also benefits now recently, or more recently, from the addition of Antonio Brown, who is also another bona fide, it's obviously tried and true, time-tested, proven facts here. Antonio Brown is also a #1 wide receiver. So Chris Godwin has heavy benefits from that. And he's always played on a team, even dating back to the earlier years of Chris Godwin, or even just last year, prior to the arrival of Antonio Brown. He's always played on a team with a ton of weapons. Mike Evans has always been there. He had Deshaun Jackson there. He's always had tight ends there with him. And he's had weapons to play with. And he's always had a quarterback that may not have been great, but was airing that ball out and throwing him the rock. So to me, Chris Godwin has always benefited from that. And I look at him as the greatest possible #2 that you could ever have. And there's a couple reasons for that. #1 is consistency. Now, Chris Godwin did struggle in the playoffs, and we will get into that in a second. But consistency is everything, especially if you have a #2 that you're going to be relying on. And Chris Godwin is one of the most consistent players on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You saw me wince because it's like painful how consistent Chris Godwin is. He's almost a little bit boring in a sense. He's not that flashy. He's not that tall. He's not that fast. He's not like insanely quick. But you know what he is? He's just a good football player. Chris Godwin gets down and dirty in the trenches and blocks. I can't express enough how rare it is to find a wide receiver who's willing and able to consistently provide you solid blocking in the run game. That don't happen. That don't happen. Chris Godwin is able to literally, if you really watch what goes on, Chris Godwin comes in motion how many times a game? From the slot or from out wide, comes to sort of a tight end position or an H-back position, and boom, smacks a linebacker in the hole. That's a wide receiver. I think people forget that that's a part of Chris Godwin's game, and they kind of just overlook that portion of his game. And it's really a key part of what makes him so good. He can block big time. We also see him block a lot on wide receiver screens for other people. In a Victory Monday earlier this year, I talked about how he had an amazing block where he blocked 2 separate people on a screen to Antonio Brown so Antonio Brown could split him. But that's neither here nor is it there, because we're in this location right now in the off-season. No Victory Monday talk. The other thing that Chris Godwin excels at is just the ability to catch the ball regardless of what's going on. So Chris Godwin, when he's wide open, has the same ability, the same catch rate, if you will, as when he's covered. And that's a beautiful trait to have in a wide receiver. And it's a tough trait to develop, and it's more, honestly, it's more of a mentality than a skill, if that makes sense. Because every receiver in the National Football League, at least for the most part, okay, obviously there's some people who are, but for the most part, every receiver in the National Football League is able to catch, right? You're a wide receiver in the freaking National Football League. Best get your hands game up. Chris Godwin, however, has the unique ability, and again, it really starts with the mentality that he brings to the field. He has the unique ability to catch the ball with guys draped on him, hanging on him, punching at the ball, ripping his arms out from underneath him, things like that. And that is a skill and a trait, and it's something that is very difficult to coach. You either kind of have that kind of toughness ingrained in you, or you don't. You either kind of want that smoke, or you don't. And it's not a huge deal if you have somebody who's not really that competent when it comes to catching the football in traffic, but it is a colossal benefit when you have a guy who's able to separate, and you also have a guy who could catch the ball when he's unable to separate. That is fantastic, and Chris Godwin absolutely brings all of that to the table. Couple that with his blocking, couple that with the fact that this is a guy who pretty much has gotten better each year. I know last year he stumbled a little bit, at least statistically. He had gotten better every single year of his career up until last year. Here's what we're going to do, though. We're going to take last year and we're going to shelf it, and we're going to blame it on the injuries, and we're going to blame it on the fact that it was a new system with Tom Brady halfway through the year. They totally changed systems, and we're gonna new quarterback. We're gonna just dismiss all that blame. Okay, we're just gonna say, you know what, Chris, you get a pass. Okay, everybody's stats kind of struggled last year. We saw Mike Evans have a pretty big dip in yards as well. Chris Godwin was still close to 1,000 yards. Now I want to talk about the playoffs. The 2020 playoffs were my favorite 4-game stretch ever. Ever. But one thing that did really disappoint me in the 2020 playoffs was our boy Chris Godwin, and I never would have expected it. When I was going into the playoffs, or the Bucs were going into the playoffs, I'm not on the team. No, I'm not. When the Bucs were going into the playoffs, I expected Chris Godwin to go off. I thought to myself, yeah, Chris Godwin is a dog. He's going to be unstoppable in these playoffs. He's going to go ahead and really, like, he's going to get it big time. Like, he's going to blow up. I was so disappointed in his performance in the playoffs, and I can be honest as a fan, and I could say that he disappointed me. It's okay. I still love you, Chris. You're still my guy. But in the playoffs, he did come up small, and you could argue that, you know, did Chris Godwin choke in the playoffs? And I'm going to say no. I'm going to lean towards no. But it does bother me, his performance in the playoffs, because it was not that he just didn't play that well, but it was the fact that he played beneath the standard that he had set for himself. You know, it's always tough to judge players, but the easiest way to judge a player, or arguably the most fair way to judge a player, is off of the standard that they set for themselves. Chris Godwin in the regular season, Chris Godwin in the playoffs, his own standard, he did not meet it. Now, there are obviously extenuating circumstances, of course, and it's not as if he played terrible in the playoffs, but it was really just a lack of consistently catching the ball. Mainly what I'm talking about, guys, is drops. Now, Chris Godwin in his entire career, this is an alarming stat. Alarms, alarms, alarms. Chris Godwin in his entire career, leading up to the 2020 playoffs, man had 6 drops. 6, okay, which is a good number. 6 drops over the span of multiple seasons. Good stuff, Godwin. Keep it up. Nice hands. In the 2020 playoffs, Chris Godwin dropped 7 passes. In 4 games. In 4 games, he dropped more passes than he had dropped in his entire career up until that point. Now, obviously, a stat like that makes you feel like, oh yeah, he done choked, right? He choked, moment was too big, all that stuff. The only pushback I give on that is a choke is usually, when I think of someone choking, or I think of someone just like kind of folding under the pressure, right? That's usually a one-game thing, or a one-moment thing. It's usually like, well, the lights were too bright right here, and I got clammy, and I got tight, and I choked. Right? You don't generally see people choke and then come back the next week and then choke, and then your team's still winning, so you choke again. That does not happen a lot. And Chris Godwin did do some uncharacteristic things in the playoffs for sure, and I'm not going to excuse that. But to say that he choked in 4 consecutive games, I think that's silly. I just don't think people do that. Okay, like I'm thinking right now, it keeps flashing in my head, well, geez, you know who choked all the time back in the day? And I keep thinking about Tony Romo. I just had to bring that up. Sorry, Cowboys fans. Chris Godwin, it's a little harsh to say that he choked. He struggled. The only pass I'm going to give him is everybody kind of seems to have forgotten about Chris Godwin's finger situation. There's 2 fingers here on his hand, taped together. He actually had his glove chopped. So he wore a glove, cut these 2 fingers out of the glove. These 2 fingers right here exposed. Then he had these 2 fingers taped, wrapped together, wrapped like into his thumb. Okay? And then on the back of these 2 fingers, he had padding from a separate glove. So he had a lineman glove. For those who've ever played football, you know the difference between skill gloves and lineman gloves. Obviously you have receiver gloves, padded receiver gloves, lineman gloves, all that stuff. He had a lineman glove, the back of a lineman glove, cut out and then taped onto the back of his fingers. Now, if you've ever used a lineman glove or touched a lineman glove, you know they are not ideal for catching. That's primarily why they're called lineman gloves. But Chris Godwin managed to go out there and play with that. First of all, the toughness that it takes and the mentality, again, talking about Godwin's mentality that it takes to go out there and play like that. Think about catching a football. If you've caught a football the same way your entire life, you're like boom, 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 right? And all of a sudden, you're more like boom, 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 and you can't really close these fingers because they're all kind of just it doesn't work the same way. So I'm gonna give him the smallest of passes. Like, that's hard. You know, it's hard to do something different than you've always done it. And then, by the way, do it in the most important moments of your life and your professional career, at least. You like change everything you've ever done. All the muscle memory you had, the fundamentals you had, like now it's going to be totally different. And if you watch Chris Godwin, because this really did bother me, this whole that drop stat right there really bothered me when I first saw it, because I was like, really? Like, that is just depressing, honestly. If you go back and you watch how Godwin caught some of the passes that he did catch, or dropped some of the passes that he dropped, he caught the ball like he was afraid to touch it with these two fingers. And guys, if you've ever caught a football, you know. So to not have full mobility in these two fingers, I think that really did play a part in Chris Godwin dropping the football. I'm not giving him a full pass because he really did underachieve, but I am going to say, you know what, Chris Godwin, especially since we did win the Super Bowl, I'm not mad at you, bro. I'm not mad at you, and I do appreciate you just going out there and, hey, if you can suit up, give it your best, even if your best is not actually your best. Chris Godwin, to me, is a guy, he's a trooper, he's toughness personified, absolutely one of the toughest wide receivers I've seen. And he's a versatile, do-it-all guy. Tom Brady loves Chris Godwin, which is another reason why I believe Chris Godwin is still a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Fans love Chris Godwin. I love Chris Godwin. Mike Evans loves Chris Godwin. You heard Mike Evans in a Super Bowl postgame talk about how great Chris Godwin is and how difficult it would be for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if he wasn't a Tampa Bay Buc. So everybody loves Chris Godwin. Great guy, great football player. To me, I think the injury did play a little bit of a role in those drops. Even though they do get me down. They do bother me, but I'm going to give Chris Godwin a little bit of a pass there on that one because he was hurt. And again, if you look back and you watch it, he's afraid sometimes to clamp the ball. And he'll catch it lefty and then put his right hand on it. Or he'll catch it like this. And that's just not a way, that's not how you want to be catching a ball. It's just not. So Chris Godwin gets franchise tagged by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the move. Did you like the move? Did you expect the move? Did you think Godwin was going to get more money in a long-term deal? Or did you think that we were going to let Godwin walk? How did you think the Bucs were going to play this? And did you like the way that they chose to play it? Leave it in the comments below. That is going to do it for this video. Another great banger of a video here on O and the C. Can't wait for the next one. I hope you guys are excited for the next one. Chris Godwin's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and it feels gosh dang good. Let's go Bucs, your 2020 Super Bowl champions.